Hey everyone, I'm Airwingmarine. Welcome back to the channel on my next Escape From Tarkov video. As you can see, we finally got our hideout upgraded to where we got our favorite rest base back and our favorite wall art. So that's good. I've been missing that compared to the humdrum hideout upgrades until now. But more importantly, we're going to get into a loot guide. A loot guide on what you should keep with having the flea market. Now, if you don't have the flea market, I get it. This can be kind of discouraging, but I have a whole nother video for you guys. If you want to watch that, it's geared specifically for you before level 20. So go check that out. If you're still under level 20, you don't have the flea, but for everybody else, let's roll right into it. All right, so the goal of this is to talk about what's valuable right now and what's not. So you guys can loot the right stuff and not the wrong stuff and make the most out of your raids. The early wipe is really volatile, so this stuff might wear out right away. The video might ruin it, so just keep that in mind. Always check this stuff before you start collecting, 200 CPU fans or something like that. Make sure you're checking the prices and you're selling when it makes sense for you. So those of you that have been around the channel for a while know that I have this 12.5 per slot ruble rule, if you will, that I roll with most of my loot guides. We're not there yet. Things are so chaotic. Loot is all over the place that for me, I just fill up my bag and then swap stuff out as I find more valuable things and try to get out a raid rather than look for more valuable loot. It's pretty competitive out there right now. So if you're like me, you're struggling trying to stay alive and not die with bags full of loot, which is super discouraging. So let's get into the what to keep. I'm going to skip over the whole, these are what you should always keep kind of things, because I figure if you're level 20 already, this short into the wipe, you probably know what you're doing and you don't need to be told to keep ophthalmoscopes or, Tetrises or things like that. So let's get into the first thing, blue fuel. Now, I talk about this specifically, obviously fuel is worth keeping, but what I think you should do, what is really valuable right now, because tons of people are crafting mag boxes, is burn the fuel up. If you get it in raid, throw it in your generator, because you pull it out of your generator empty, it still has that found in raid status. And you can sell that empty one, and we'll go look here. You might not even be able to find them on the market half the time. But if you get rid of the operational only, it'll show empty ones. You see, they're not even listed. You can sell an empty one for 70, 80K, maybe even 90K. People are going to buy it, even if it saves them a couple thousand rubles, because they don't care whether it has fuel in it or not. They're just crafting mag boxes. So keep that in mind. If you get them out of raid, burn them up and sell them then, because you're going to make a bunch more money. And these are only going to get more expensive. We've seen expeditionary fuel tanks go from 40, 50K, 60K at the start of the wipe all the way to 90 now. And they're just going to keep on going until they get into that probably 150 range, because that's about the point where they stop making sense for the mag cases. But if mag cases keep going up as well, we'll see the blue fuel with them. They kind of go hand in hand. So just keep that in mind. One little tidbit. CPU fans are worth a ton right now, because you need an absolute boatload of them for all sorts of things, primarily the Bitcoin farm. I'm getting ready to do mine now. I only have 1 or 2 CPU fans and I need 15. So I'll be looking to get a bunch of those, because I'm sure as heck not going to be spending, what are they going for, like 30K right now? I'm not going to be spending 30K on CPU fans when I can just go loot them out of computers. Relays are another one. Quite a few upgrades with these, and they're kind of rare, so they're hard to get out of raid. You don't see them all over the place unless you know where to look. Bunch of money, ton of money in those things. Defuels, used for a couple of barters, couple of upgrades in the hideout. But these things are worth 100K rubles, 80 on the low end, but I've seen them go for 100 the last couple of days. Blue tape is another one that's worth a ton right now, because it's used in so many different crafts. So there's a huge demand for blue tape right now. So great thing to take out of raid. Bolts are always keeping. Just want to bring that up kind of as a counterpoint to screw nuts. Make sure you're keeping all your bolts, even if you get them. These are one of the first things that'll go into my secure container, simply because I use them all the time for making mag boxes and other stuff, but you can use them in your hideout. So these are one of the first things, if I find I got space, they go into my secure container, because they got so much utility out of raid. Power cords are worth a ton. You need them for hideout upgrades. People use them to make wires, which are in the crafts, which wires are worth keeping right now. I should have had some out here, but I don't have any. Wires are another one that's worth keeping, and the power cord and wires kind of go hand in hand. Keck tape, worth keeping. It's one of those things that sells a lot to vendors, but right now you can see them sell from anywhere from 18, 20, sometimes 25K on the flea market, because people need them to craft those 60 round mags, as well as make some items in the laboratory for tasks. Tubes are kind of a borderline. I always keep them because I'm using them to craft lots of stuff, but I think we're going to see a spike in tubes here pretty soon as people start needing them for their moonshine, and more people start crafting aquamarines as they get their water collectors unlocked. I think that's what we're going to see. So tubes are a keep for me. Power banks, always worth keeping, obviously, but you can sell them for more. People are going to be using them to craft their defibs, which they need to craft LEDXs and stuff like that. So you're going to see more uses come out of those. And then the 40-second signature tea, while it's a streamer item, obviously, you need it to craft a couple items in the nutrition unit. And so you're going to see the price inflate on these. So make sure you don't just sell it right to the vendor. You check. You might be able to sell them for 23, 25K. I made, late last night, I made some hot rods and I had to spend 27K on one just to get that craft started. Now, I made a bunch of money on the craft, even though I spent 27K on the tea, but it's there. On to the next row, chlorine. A lot of people run past this. I've looted Resort and it's been looted out, but I've found 2 chlorines in there and people run right by them. Chlorines are selling for quite a bit right now. If you take a peek here, you know, you're right now they're 25, 30, but I've been able to sell them for over 30K the last couple of days, and they're going to maintain that for a little while. I don't know how much longer, but just something to keep in mind. They're a good little item right now at the start of the wipe when people are buying them for upgrades. Paracords are worth a ton. They're used for a couple of barters. They're used for a couple of crafts. They're getting bought up, and not a lot are getting found. And then lastly, Xenomorph. This is used to upgrade your hideout, your water collectors. So they're kind of pricey, and a lot of people don't keep them because most of the time they're not worth money. I've been selling them for in the 35 to 40K range the last couple of days. So when you find these, make sure you keep that in mind. Even though there's 3 slot, they are worth quite a bit of money. They're worth keeping. Now, the second set of items here are worth keeping, but they're items I like to sell in big batches because they borderline on not worth keeping, but once a day, twice a day, they spike in price and you can sell them for, 50% more than everybody else. So circuit boards, right now you see them for 10 to 11K, but I've been selling them in that 16K range. At the end of the day, I'll save up till I get 10 of them. I'll list them and off they go. Same thing with spark plugs. People need a bunch of these for their generator level 3. As you can see right now, this is on the high end. When I bought that spark plug right there for 10K. So you can see how fast these swing. So I like to keep spark plugs until I get 4 or 5 of them, and then I'll list them for like 20 to 25K, and they almost always sell. Zibbos fall into this category as well, even though they're almost always worth selling when you get them out of raid. Right now, they're a little cheap. I like selling them in this 14 to 15K range, and I'll wait till I get 6 or 7 of them, list them, and they'll usually sell within an hour or two. It just kind of depends on the day. Helixes, right now, I don't know how long these are going to last. One of the big drivers for Helixes has always been the M61 craft, which actually, if you haven't seen, has been absolutely torpedoed. It went from same components. I think it takes a longer period of time, and now it only produces 100 rounds. I think it's a good thing. That's a discussion for a whole nother video, but that demand for Helix is going to go down, but you still need them for hideout and some other stuff. I keep these until I get 5 or 6 of them. I'll list them for about 15K, and they've been selling, but we're seeing right now they're starting to peel off on that back end. So just keep that in mind. They might be getting a lot cheaper on you. Oat flakes. Now these go all over the place. These can be anywhere from 10K all the way to 30K. I'll keep them till I get a stack of about 5 or 6, and then I'll list them at the end of the night when they can sit all night. That seems to be the best time to sell them, and I'll sell them for like 25 to 30K. And then lastly, MREs. This food is a good one to keep, not only because it's a good food to have. I keep them, period, because they're great to take into raid. You don't have to worry about how much energy you eat them, and they fill you up, but they're needed for a task. Peacekeeper, I can't remember, it's humanitarian supplies, I believe, where you got to mark the trucks, but you got to turn in 5 MREs, and they don't have to be found in raid. So people just usually come in and buy them. And when that happens, boom, there goes 5 MREs, and the price goes up 7,000 rubles when they do that. So I literally stack them up. I sell them in packs of like 5 to 10 because that's what people are looking for. And I try to sell them for pushing 28 to 30K. Now, this last group here is 6 items that I think that even I'm guilty of. As you can see, these are all found in raid. I found them in raid that I take out of raid that I probably shouldn't be, and you shouldn't be either, because they aren't worth money right now. The CPUs, screws, capacitors, screw nuts, fuses, and duct tape. These are all on the low end. And yes, they have utility. And if I'm not going to tell you you're a bad person because you take them out, or you don't know what you're doing. Obviously, I'm taking them out, but just keep in mind that these items are not worth much. And if you're filling up on them, you should probably be looking for other loot. I mean, even food sells for more than this stuff right now. So for 1 slots, they're just not worth keeping. If you need them, they're better to just take out loot that's worth more and then buy them later, because then at least you are upping your flea market rating by selling stuff on the flea market, and you're saving yourself a little bit of money. The last couple of things I want to talk about here are, so metal fuel cans, right? I'm not going to tell you not to take these out of raid, but if you just get into raid and you find a metal fuel can, you're going to be overweight. You're going to take you longer to move around the map. You're going to have to stop more often, which increases the chance of running into somebody else. I won't pick up metal fuel cans and bring them out of raid unless I find them towards the end of the raid. They're just not worth it right now. They're about 10 to 12K a slot, so they can be worth the money. And if you desperately need fuel, take it out. That's fine. But for a loot item, they're not great. And flat screwdrivers, I have been keeping these. This kind of gets into the second category here. Items I've been keeping. And it's probably the most common question I get asked now. Hey, what should I keep to sell later in raid. You know, I'm keeping them now. I don't want to sell them for a month or two. You know, I want to try to play the market. I hate giving this advice because if I'm wrong, I'm going to cost you a ton of money, a ton of time, and I just don't want to do that. But to kind of ease that question a little bit, I'm going to show you guys what I'm doing with the caveat of I'm not telling you to do this. This is not recommended. I wouldn't recommend doing this because it's a huge risk, but it's something I like to do. I like to speculate a little bit, so that's why I'm doing it, for the fun of that. So flat screwdrivers, I believe these things are going to be worth a lot more than they are now. They're already worth about 10K. They're already worth good loot. You can sell them for 10K most day long. You can see here they're selling for 6 to 7 just because it's a low spot, but I've been selling them for 10K, and then I realized, oh my God, I want to sit on these because once circuit boards get more expensive, you're going to start seeing people use these a lot more to craft circuit boards. So if you look in here, I've got couple of them saved up, but this is also some of the other items I'm keeping. I'm crafting red gunpowder now, and I'm hanging on to it. We've already seen red gunpowder come up 10-15,000 rubles in the last week, and it's just going to continue to go up as more and more people get their workbenches unlocked and more demand for the higher end ammos comes up. We're going to see gunpowder go up. It's just how it is. And the demand, the price of M61 is going to dictate high prices for red gunpowder, in my opinion. Same thing with the 7N31. All the high-end crafts got nuked. Again, that crafting video, we'll talk about what they changed on a different point, but I think that's going to make gunpowder even more expensive than it was last wipe when there was tons of money in the economy. So I'm crafting red gunpowder right now. I might even buy a second Lucky Scav junk box or a third one to keep all of red gunpowder in and just keep, and materials. Buy, you know, if I have extra money, I'm going to buy up all the materials, blue gunpowders, green gunpowders while they're cheap, matches, so I can craft at a low price and make a bunch of money later in the wipe. On top of that, I'm keeping propanes. You see me keeping a lot of relays. I just haven't got a chance to sell them today. I'm probably going to sell these here pretty soon because they're a bunch of money, but I'm keeping propane tanks. They're dirt cheap right now. They are selling for 15 to 20K, as you can see right here. They're going to push that 40 to 50K once people start getting to where they want to unlock the Red Rebel, and they need these for tasks and things like that. On top of that, I am hanging on to aces. I bought all my aces for about 200 to 250K. You're already seeing them push 330, 320. I have 2 in here found in raid already. I'm going to save those and sell them when they push 1 million, because once people start getting to solar power and start buying these things up and doing weapon case trip barters and more, and then also the 6B43 barter, which you need for a task, the big heavy armor that you have to do, we're going to see aces go through the roof. So I'm hanging on to those to sell later. I have PSUs. I'm not going to sell these because I'm still working on getting my Bitcoin farm. I'm going to start saving PSUs because you're already seeing them push about 40,000, but I believe you're going to see them go to 50, 60, maybe even 80,000. That's what they did last wipe. I kind of expect them to do it again this wipe, just because you need a ton of them for the Bitcoin farm, and people just aren't there yet, but they will get there. And then lastly, pile of meds. I'm keeping tons of them. Where are they all at? I got some here and some there. I got them scattered all over wherever I can store them. I'm keeping my pile of meds as I craft them. I'm using them. I'm crafting them and using them. I'm trying to level up my hideout skill as fast as I can. But the whole idea is I think pile of meds are going to push that, 12, 13, 14K mark eventually, whereas right now they're dirt cheap, and Augmentin's dirt cheap. So that's what I'm going to be doing, is saving my pile of meds for later. And nails. Nails are dirt cheap right now. But once we get into crafting things again, I believe we're going to see these push that 15 to 20K mark. And I'm just going to have a whole pile of them to sell when they get there. For now, I'm just holding on to them because it's hard for me not to hold nails. It's kind of an old habit of what's worth a lot. All right, well, that wraps up the video, guys. I appreciate you watching. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. It helps out on the YouTube algorithm. We have a Discord. We fill up with, there's lots of people in there willing to ask questions, help out. We've got a key channel for people that need to get doors unlocked or looking to group up and do specific tasks. And it's filling up with people that just love Tarkov. So don't hesitate to come by, join the group, and be part of the hangar. A little bit more housekeeping. I have a Patreon. It's an alternative for folks that want to support the channel. The higher tiers have some bonuses, like they get to see videos like this early, as well as I post in there when I'm seeing things going on in the economy. I'll post things in there for them, or the Discord that say, hey, look out for these items and stuff like that, kind of on a daily basis, just so that you can do it. I've got the list here of all the folks that are doing it, the credits, if you will, guys that are putting that extra mile in to help us pay for the editors and pay for the content and Tarkov market and all the stuff that we use, the expenses we have to generate these videos. But lastly, I just want to say thank you for supporting us on YouTube. If that's all you're doing, that's plenty enough. Thank you guys for watching the videos, liking, subscribing, chatting. All of that means a bunch to me, and I greatly appreciate it. I wish you the best of luck, and we'll see you in Tarkov.